Hey everybody, welcome to Real Recognize Fake Community Conversations, and I am so excited to be here today with Dr. Alice FARRELL. She is such a phenomenal woman, and to have her today on day 3 of Kwanzaa is more than... It's just an honor to have you here, so I'm excited. Dr. FARRELL is the president and CEO of Olive Branch Clinical Consulting Services. She has almost 30 years of experience in human services, social work, social welfare, all that kind of things. She has done so much, including a master's of social work as well from the School of Social Work at UConn, as well as her Juris Doctorate, her law degree from the School of Law at UConn. She's also a mother of 8 children. She has birthed engineers and scientists and educators, so she's incredible, and she's a grandmother of 5 young black boys, which is such a beautiful thing as well. I think we should just take the conversation through all of what we feel right now in terms of what collective work and responsibility has meant and what it can mean for our community upcoming. And because you just have so much experience with working in that manner, I really want you to just take it away. So I'm just going to have a couple of questions, and then it is all you, because I want our listeners and our viewers to really soak up what you have to say. So first and foremost, like I said, happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa, Tiffany.
Happy Kwanzaa. Thank you. We get so much different emotions surrounding Kwanzaa because it is such a young holiday, but I think it's such a meaningful one, and I am excited to share this holiday that I hold so dear with my community. And Springfield has actually been doing Kwanzaa really big for a while, so it's been a blessing to be reared here. What's your take on Kwanzaa and its meaning to your work and just what we do in general?
Well, I would say that while we are celebrating Kwanzaa for the period of time that is designated, that the idea around it, all of the principles, the 7 principles, transcend the very period that we celebrate. It's including that, but it ought to be a 365-day period. And so that is my immediate take. And when you say that in terms of celebration, it is a celebration because the foundation of it, the values that are espoused within the principles, it captivates the mind and it captivates the soul and the emotions, the psychology, thinking about from where we've come from, if you will, over 400 years. When we think about slavery and the ravishing of our ancestors and so forth, and then we're in a space where we get to determine, as you were looking at yesterday's Kuchichagalia, when you're looking at that naming, defining yourselves, self-determination, that aspect of it is just paramount for where we are right now in this space.
Yes, I agree. And I think that that's why I like Kwanzaa so much, because during the holiday season, we are expected to think about what we have. It's about grateful for what we have, and I think Kwanzaa does a great job of doing that, but also be grateful for what we don't have and who we've been and who we are and who we want to be. And it's the conversation grows from materialistic things to all these ideas and concepts of how we're interconnected and how we can work together. So that is so exciting for me. Today is about collective work and responsibility. And honestly, this is a tough topic for our community, right? Because the way society is structured here, we're not supposed to get it together. The whole idea of the American dream is pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can do it. You can make it out. And it's kind of built this culture for the black community specifically, that if you assimilate, so your proximity to whiteness, if you get closer to whiteness and you assimilate to mainstream society, then you get to achieve a little bit. And then you get to achieve more and more if you follow that path. But it's not in a group. It's by yourself. So once I add on my high school diploma, once I add on my college degree, once I add on this certificate or that training, that all those ideas, it's just for me as an individual to succeed as myself. this day of Kwanzaa kind of flips it on its head. It's not only saying that we're supposed to be working together, but it's our responsibility, which means that we're going to be held accountable for it if we do or if we don't. And so having this idea of collective work and responsibility in a society that really prizes individualism and that capitalist marketplace that's one-to-one, how do we balance it? What do you think? Which paths can we take? How do we manage both identities for us being black and brown in the United States?
Well, I think one of the things that you just mentioned, the individualism piece, the ideology around capitalism and the movement, it's you're doing it, it's your hard work individually. That is counterintuitive when it comes to the work that goes beyond the materialistic component. We are spiritual beings connected to one another, and with that, the collective responsibility, that collective work, the collective struggle, the collective hardship, the collective benefit. This is what it's about. When we train and teach our children within the family life that their individual well-being is connected to the family well-being and is connected to the community well-being, there's an interconnection that cannot be severed because of the depth of who we are. So when we're thinking now, we're in a society existing with counter values. We must take a positional stance. And this is what is so important right now to think about. When we're socialized a certain way since we were small, when we're socialized to carry and walk the path that is structured for us by the oppressive individuals and the society that is already set in terms of the institutional racism and the systemic and structural oppression, we must be able to see that and then design and create and co-author with one another the path that we should travel. Now, it doesn't mean that there's some aspect of the work and the way it's done in society that we cannot gravitate toward. But it means that we make some decisions, some very clear-cut decision on what values we would like to espouse and train our children in. And so when we're thinking about building and maintaining community, building it together, that's saying that my brother and my sister, I'm in it with you. We're in it together. It's not that I have made it and you need to now find the way to make it. It's saying that you are coming along with me. As I'm traveling, I am making space for you. As I learned how to navigate the systems and the structures that are inherently in place to really demolish my own creativity and my own authority and power to move forward and to build, then I am going to show and share how you can do it. It's this concept, the idea with the way it's structured now, it's as if we train, as you said it. The more you assimilate, the more it's said that you will be more successful and so forth, and don't look behind and don't try to grab someone and bring them along. But that is so against our the core of who we are, our being, the core.
I think something that's important that you said is that you're towing around is this competition, the spirit of competition, right? I struggle with it. I struggle with it a lot because I know it has its purpose. However, we compete so much now, we're dying with resource available to us. You know what I mean? It's the spirit of competition that allows us to only have so many vaccines, right? When there's 300 million people, but there's only 100 million vaccines right now. It's always about competition. It's always about, hold on. So yeah, it's always about competition. It's always about, this is what I have. It's almost like coveting. It's more than just, I want to amass this because I worked hard and I need it and I like it. It's more of, I have all of this now and you don't. That makes me better than you. And it feeds into a different part of you. So it's not just things anymore. It's not just materialism anymore. Now it's people identifying with it. It's, if you have this much things, I'm going to be able to respect you more. I'm going to be able to admire you more, interact with you on a higher level. And that's really my issue with competition, is because if we are all treated as a collective and inspired by everyone, right? And loved by everyone and cared for by everyone, when someone is succeeding, it's just success. There shouldn't be, oh, Tiffany Alicia is succeeding, so Dr. Alice Farrell now needs to compete with Tiffany. That's what we need to compete with. And that's what I see everywhere, where it's like, as soon as someone is being successful, the reaction is, oh, who's going to beat her? Who's going to match her? Who's going to be in first place? Like, why can't we just all be great in the things that we're supposed to be great in? And I think collective work and responsibility kind of flattens that competition, because when Pure Beauty succeeds, I succeed. When Arrow, like, exactly, this is a perfect example. I couldn't do this, we couldn't do this if Arrow Studios and Big Vision Concepts wasn't excelling in their craft, if they weren't updating their technology, if they weren't investing in their brands, right? I could not be able to organize this. I know nothing about microphones or headsets or any of the things that they're even doing, but I knew I needed their service. So their success is now making my event a better success, and now we're going to be able to share our conversation with the world, so it's not just an event and one day thing, it's going to go on forever. So that, to me, that just means everyone's successful at this point.
That's right. But one of the things that, as you were speaking there, I can't help but think about psychological slavery.
Yes.
There is this element that folk are not speaking about that contributes to the ongoing competitiveness beyond the economic and materialistic component.
Yes.
It's as if we continue to take the oppressor's concept and ideology and maintain it and internalize it and carry it through our very existence.
Yes.
And that is something that needs to be canceled.
Yes.
Because if we don't, we're going to, whether we think about physical slavery or not, that psychological slavery, that post-traumatic slave syndrome that the brethren mentioned in the literature, these are continuing to manifest itself in a behavior, the social behavior in the environment, and this is existing. So when you think about the collective responsibility flattening, it's saying that we are not going to continue and be the arm and the feet for the oppressor. We are going to decide that we are going to be our helper. We are going to help one another. We are not going to take on that value system that say don't help each other, compete with one another. And I'd like to speak specifically to the resource allocation. There is this ongoing funder resource allocation issue that continue to set up the structure for the competition to be evident. In one breath, the request for proposals may say, we want you to collaborate and partner with grassroots organizations, non-traditional providers, etc. However, at the next breath, you also see the competition that's built within those grants that makes it very impossible for the smaller organizations, the black and brown businesses, the non-traditional providers to actually compete against those who have structured themselves and have been in power and position.
I agree.
And so we are working not only against ourselves in terms of the socialization, but we're working against the institutionalization of the competitiveness that's built within their policies and their structures.
I had many experiences where I was like, it feels like a dog and pony show or a circus, trying to jump through hoops just to get money to support my dreams. And it kind of goes back to this overseer concept anyway, because it's like, what gives you the authority to tell me what is worth creating in this world? So a lot of these arts and culture grants, a lot of these programming grants, a lot of these things where we're seeking money, it's not free and flowing for me to develop my ideas. It's so specific that I am creating what they want without the employment, the benefits, the job. And so it ends up being these third-party people who can't actually make the things or run the programs or do the things we're doing, gets to dictate what exists and what doesn't. And that's not collective. That's like a trickle-down kind of scenario.
That's right.
And so going back to how we maneuver those things, I think Kwanzaa, having this principle of collective work and responsibility, really showcases that it is an option not to operate solely as an individual. We do have that option to go hard and still be mindful of those around us. We can institute care and love and culture into our business practices and our business policies in order to be successful. Because let them tell you, you have to be cold-hearted. You have to be, it's just business. But I think collective work and responsibility is really about taking it to the next level. Oh my goodness. Corey in the building, Seaball. Yo, I just have to stop the podcast right quick. When I say Arrow Studios, there's none like them, yo. There's none like Arrow Studios. We're just talking about your business meaning more. He has showed up and showed out for us every day, regardless of what's going on. And he has presented this opportunity for us to build and see ourselves. When I took a picture behind this for the first time, I felt more important. I felt more valuable. I felt like I was being taken seriously. And it was literally his collective work with his partnership with Future and Christopher, and like all of them together came together to build it, right?
This is it.
And I'm gonna hit you with something you don't even know. I'm gonna hit you with something you don't even know.
Tell me.
Big Vision Concepts. The owner of it is my future brother-in-law. Dana's Wayne's significant other.
Are you serious?
His big brother. Like, yeah.
Wow.
So you see what I mean?
Wow.
When we get interconnected, we find out that we might already be connected.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And so it was nothing but love. I showed up and went to his podcast. And my world just opened up. I was just like, this is in Springfield. This is happening here. And it allowed me to reimagine it because I had my upcoming event for the marketplace. And then I was invited to his podcast. And when I stepped into the studio, I was like, yo, the game just changed. The game just changed. And that's how I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I need to get with them, right? And so I contact them.
Wow.
And we get together, and they first and foremost understood that what we were trying to do was important and that we were a nonprofit. And the first thing they did was like explain that finances isn't the only thing that we can bargain with. So we were able to come to this deal where we are both mutually benefiting, and no one had to feel pain. No one had to feel like they were played. And that joy you saw me just feel when I saw him was natural. And I love that, because when we are doing this collective work, you build bonds with people.
That's it.
And you start to think about them as humans and not just a commodity, not just a bunch of laptops and computers. Arrow Studio stands for something. BBC stands for something. Real, Recognized, Fake. Olive Branch, like it has meaning.
That's right.
And value, like you said, outside of the financial world. But yeah, so I think that I'm gonna just end with that, because that's the perfect example of collective work.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
And you, Dr. Alice Farrell, has flown all over this world to do talks on a variety of topics that really helps the Black community. And I wanted to have some questions to get some information out of you, but more importantly, I wanted you to be able to have time to just speak and just take this opportunity as we're approaching 2021, as you know, all the things that are happening, that's going on, all the scenarios that might play out next year. What is your message in regards to Ujima collective work and responsibility?
All right, so I will definitely take it away from there.
All right.
I'm glad that you did stop and pause, because that was a perfect example of where we are.
And recognition, right?
Perfect. You recognize, you value, you affirm. It's just awesome what you just did there.
We're also fighting those kind of things, right?
Yes.
Because let showbiz tell you, oh no, if it's not on the script, we can't do it. You can't do. No, if it's time to show love, we showing love.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
That's lit. That's it.
I'm just gonna move you over just a little bit.
Okay. And am I looking that way?
In the camera. So it's just you now.
Okay.
So talk as if you are doing your preaching.
Okay. All right.
And it's just gonna be you on here. Okay, mommy.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you
meeting,
so much.
I won't be here, but Jasper and Isan are here.
All right, and someone will let me know when I'm fast approaching that hour that I need to start?
So we are at 1. We got about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, we'll make it work. Okay.
You needed more than that?
Probably 20, but we're good. We'll do whatever you need.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
We're good.
Just because we're already 30 minutes
We're
behind
good.
and I want to be respectful.
That's right. We're good. All right, so I will just go ahead and continue the sharing. It was just so great that Tiffany Alicia took the opportunity to recognize her colleagues that have been working with her, and that is part of the collective responsibility. We're not only saying that we work with one another or we are fashioning and designing and creating with one another, but we're speaking about relationships, connection, interconnectedness, being part of one another's lives and being able to affirm one another, being able to pause and encourage and express the appreciation and the deep gratitude that we have for one another as we work. And often, unfortunately, you're not able to see that in some of the atmospheres that we work in. But that is part of the tenets, if you will, or the principles around the collective work and responsibility. It's that partnership, it's that cooperation, it's that collaboration, it's that teaming together. It's saying that we are in this together. Your problem is my problem. Your community issue there, I'm part of that solution process. I will come alongside you to design the solutions that need to be able to target or get toward whatever the problem is. I'm going to read a piece that I wrote recently, and it speaks to what I see we need to do in terms of the collective work. I wrote it as a part of the Mr. George Floyd tribute that occurred at Dr. Martin Luther King Family Center back early in the month of July. And it reads this: there will come a day when our conversations about thriving and reaching our maximum potential will not be shrouded by clouds of conversations that focuses on teaching about ethnic genocide and ethnic education, of how to survive as a black child, a black man, or a black woman. There will come a time when our sharing and discussing of our children's dreams will not be preceded or followed by descriptive nightmares associated with police brutality, overt and covert discriminatory practices, institutional racism, and structural and systemic oppression, or biases, prejudices, and inequities in policing, judicial rulings, in healthcare, in health insurance, in education, in income, inequities in employment and housing, and inequities in child welfare and social service systems, and overall social, economic, cultural, and political structures. There will come a time when our blackness and the various shades that we are born in will not dictate the quality of treatment by police officers, providers in the medical community, or in healthcare. There will come a time when the color of our skin does not dictate the level of respect and dignity that we can expect to receive in boardrooms and in grocery stores, K through 12, and the institutions of higher education. There will come a time when the degree to which we have access to basic needs and life-sustaining resources, including the oxygen Mr. George Floyd was deprived of on that tragic day, will not be limited because of the color of our skin, our accents, or the languages we speak. There will come a time when our children will not need to ask us questions like, what's wrong with black people? Why do they hate us so much? A time when they will not have to say, Mom, is there ethnic education to teach black children how to survive? A time when our children will not have to say, I feel anxious when a police car is pulling up behind me, wondering if this is going to be my last day on earth. When our children will not need to say, I know what to do if I am pulled over by a police because of what you and Dad taught me, but my problem is, why do black men have to go through so much? There will come a time when the conversations will shift to discussions that transcends this time period. That day will come as long as we stand in solidarity against every law, policy, procedure, and practice that promote and sustain institutional racism, structural and systemic oppression, disparities, inequities, and injustices across systems, including but not limited to institutions and systems of policing, education, housing, employment, healthcare, child welfare, mental health, and substance-related care systems. It will come when all branches of government are challenged and held accountable for their actions and inactivity to address the injustices forced on people of color. It will come as long as we increase our understanding of the complexities of the impact historical, physical, and psychological slavery has had and continues to have on people of color. This time will come when we no longer remain silent or invisible when injustice is being experienced by others. It will become a reality when we begin to fully understand Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he stated that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It will also come when we recognize that no one in power willingly gives power over or begin to think about sharing power without a collective advocacy effort that is strategic, tactical, and multidimensional. Disrupting and dismantling institutions that are part of the cornerstone and foundation, as well as the nation's structure and infrastructure, take a concerted, collective, relentless, intentional effort by us and our allies and those who would stand with us in a position of advocacy. Community, national, global awareness through nonviolent protests and marches combined with intensive and comprehensive education on advocacy, negotiation, and communication, along with education on our history, presented to all children and adults, along with voter education and registration year-round, is critical. Holding ongoing community cafe meetings with diverse stakeholder groups with all the issues on the table is critical. Bringing different perspectives and cultivating and brokering consensus are also essential to this dismantling process. It requires us demanding all systems, institutions, universities and colleges, profit and non-profit businesses, faith institutions, grassroots and traditional organizations be actively involved in this dismantling of institutional racism and systemic oppression. Ensuring that no decision that impacts us are made without us being at the table is absolutely critical, and developing tight operating systems that allow us to know when meetings are established so that we can influence and co-create agendas where decisions are being made about policies and practices and allocation of resources, among other issues, are essential. The dismantling of these institutions with their policies and practices that sustain the disparities that are experienced by people of color will happen when we begin to see ourselves as our brothers' keepers, moving us to weep and grieve with them when they experience sorrow, and sing and laugh and dance with them when they experience joy. When we come alongside our brothers and sisters in solidarity, and when we say we are in this together, we will succeed and we will be victorious and we will triumph and we will overcome, because we are standing together, no division, distortion, or discord, but standing together with the purpose of equity for people of color who have sustained the historical ravaging of our bodies, our minds, our intellect, of our emotions, and of our overall well-being. We will no longer accept the raping of the richness embodied in each of us. No evil system continues forever. It will fall when we understand our economic power and our intellectual prowess and our spiritual strength and our creativity. It will fall when we understand our passion and the resilience that predates us and extend back to our ancestors who were ravaged and enslaved and brought from the motherland. The system will be dismantled when we as a collective group take charge of the narrative of our history, and when we resist embracing historical amnesia, as many of the books seem to promote about our people. It will be dismantled when we take on the education of our children to include the successes, power, creativity, intellect, and richness of our ancestors as they built civilizations and governed nations before the diabolical, dehumanizing transatlantic slave trade and law-established and supported segregation Jim Crow system. I will end this reading with this. Justice for Mr. George Floyd and all those whose name we say when we proclaim, say their name, and quoting Micah 6 verse 8, he has shown you, O mankind, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Now, just briefly, throughout that writing, I captured the collectivity piece, the solidarity piece, the duty and the obligation to come together, to stand together, to do a work together, to have our destiny, our future, to be created, narrated by us, to have the opportunity to say we will come alongside one another, no longer using the Eurocentric method, if you will, but thinking collectively, thinking with the mindset that you are my brother, you are my sister. We are in this together. My pain is your pain is my pain. My joy is your joy is my joy. And so some of the ways that I mentioned in here, some of those strategies, it's on a micro level, meso, and macro level. There's so many different ways that we can make this work, this collective work, be a reality. Tiffany used the example just a moment ago of the collective work that went into putting this together. It's partnering, it's collaborating, it's respecting one another's gifting and talents and aspirations and dreams. It's a willingness to say, I know some things, I don't know some things. You, my brother, know this. You, my sister, know this. Can we have a conversation of partnering with one another? Can we have a conversation that allows our gifts to bubble up together and to come together and intersect in a way that makes us even better beings, that makes us a contributor in an even more greater way, that has such the weight of value beyond the materialistic, beyond the commodity type of a thinking, beyond that. When we're thinking about this collective responsibility, it's a duty, it's an obligation, it's taken seriously. And so when we stop and to celebrate it today, we're saying to ourselves, how have we contributed all year long? How have we thought to partner? How have we engaged others in the partnership of whatever work that we're doing? Whether we're volunteering at an organization, or we're teaching children civic engagement, or we're helping a neighbor or an elderly person, or we're thinking of going and doing some ministry work within the church at any prison or any shelters, or whatever it is that we're thinking about. How have we taken up the opportunity, if we have, to collaborate and to sharpen one another? That's one of the questions. Now, I'm just going to pause for a moment and just say there's one piece that's called RAVE. It's an acronym I made up. And this is specifically for young people, but it can be done for adults or communities in general. And in order for us to do collective work, we need to recognize together what are the issues and the concerns and the problems that are within our communities. But we also need to recognize foremost what are the strengths, the resilience, the purpose, the hope. Where is it lying? Where is our resilience lying? What's our coping mechanisms? We need to be able to tap into that asset strength-based approach rather than come to the matter at the table from a deficit problem-based pathological approach to it. We need to be able to think about the stakeholder groups that's at the table. The youth. We need to invest in our youth, cultivate and help them with their skill sets. If they need a platform, establish a platform for them. If they need their voices to be amplified, look for opportunity to support that. If you've been in the advocacy world for a while, share your knowledge and encourage their involvement. For parents, they also have so much going on, and they are in need of support in order for them to also be available psychologically and physically to do the collective work. So herein you have opportunity to come alongside parents to help them to develop the skills they need to support their children, social, emotional, behavioral, and academic development. So what is the work that you can do to come together with parents to support them during this time period? For our dads who are out there, How can you support? How can you partner with fatherhood engagement programs? How can you support and help bring them into the space and make room for them at the table so they can co-create and they can co-develop and co-design alongside others who have had seats at the table? Bring in the faith-based community as part of the work. They're already out there doing the work, but we're talking about collective work, collective responsibility. Each of us being responsible for one another. My children must learn that their well-being is dependent and connected and derived from their family's well-being. And their family's well-being is connected to the community's well-being. It's that intersection that is necessary to be promoted even right now as we're speaking about the collective responsibility. I am going to stop here looking at... So, I'd like to just end with this one acronym. It's two acronyms on this side. I would say revolt and come. Rave is in the middle. Rave about children and families and communities. Recognize them, affirm them, value them, and empower them. For revolt, I'm saying recognize that we must work together. It must be a collaborative effort, cooperative effort, collective responsibility. The E is exposure, engagement. Educate yourself on the community needs and who are in your communities. The V is to amplify the voice of the traditionally disenfranchised and marginalized persons. Amplify their voices at every meeting that you attend. The O is to obstruct. Obstruct every law, every policy, every practice that maintains institutional racism and moves and is counter to this collective responsibility piece. The L, leverage all of your resources, your network, your power. Take the T, that's for being transparent, and demand transparency from everyone. Now I'm just going to invite you to come, COME, coordinate, organize, mobilize, and execute to dismantle institutional racism, systemic and structural oppression, and to promote equity so that we all can enjoy this life and have equitable solutions for all the problems that we're facing. Thank you so much.